Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Brexit is going to quickly become the elephant in the room for the Tories, just like it's been for Labour and much of the mainstream media of late. But without addressing it, there's no way that the Conservative Party can expect to reclaim what they think of as their real party. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So a little while ago, earlier this year, Tory MP Tobias Ellwood said that his party should seriously discuss rejoining the single market. He was at it again this week as well. What we've seen over the past few weeks is Tory MPs seeming to have had enough of the damage the ideologues in their party are doing. Some of them are even outraged at the damage they're doing to the country, not just their party. We must remember that most Conservative MPs didn't want to leave the EU at all, and certainly didn't want the hard Brexit they got. They allowed themselves to be bounced into it by a vocal, well-organised and aggressive minority amongst their numbers who threatened to split the party if they didn't get their way. So believing that they were acting for some greater good, moderate Tory MPs went along with it and hoped for events to steer them away from disaster. They hoped someone else would take control and deal with it. It didn't happen. Some of their brighter colleagues were ousted, and they're all now wedded to the concept of Brexit in some form. Ellwood seems to be largely alone in even talking about single market membership. He even said this week that it's still the thing that must not be discussed in the party. But the economy's knackered. They can bang on about global factors all they like, but it's not true, and they know it's not true. Investment was hammered not just when we left the single market, but from the referendum vote itself. From 2016, we can see that the upward trend of investment in the UK just stopped. The whole concept of Brexit created long-term uncertainty in the UK, which doesn't stop all investment, but it does reduce it by a lot. And so it proved. And Brexit continues to create uncertainty, even now. Over 2.5 years since leaving the EU, nearly 2 years since leaving the single market and customs union, there's still no stability. What are our trading arrangements with major markets? We don't know. Even the trade and cooperation agreement that Boris Johnson claimed was so comprehensive in the short term, in 2026 the whole thing gets looked again, needing more negotiations. You know, with America, we're supposed to get an American trade deal. What's happening with that? Don't know. India, we've annoyed them. We're not getting that now. We're supposed to be joining the CPTPP. What's happening with that? Are we? We don't know. The government refused to settle trading arrangements between Britain and Northern Ireland. They say, you know, they want to do all of these things, but what's happening with them? They're not happening. So we've got no stability. We don't know. We know what the government want to happen, but we don't know how they're going to make it happen. We don't know when it will happen. You know, what about our regulatory framework? Regulations are of immense interest to people thinking about setting up shop in a particular country. What are the rules and regulations they'll have to comply with? Don't know. The government claim that they're axing a load of regulations at the end of next year, as I discussed earlier this week. But some of them will last till 2026. Which ones? Don't know. In reality, they may all survive beyond then, but we don't know. Investors have no idea what our trading environment's going to look like in even 1 year's time. Never mind the 3, 5 or 10-year business plans that they need to work on. And since the Brexit vote, just over 6 years ago, we're about to move on to our 5th Prime Minister. Actually, it's Boris Johnson again. I suppose it's the 4th Mark II Prime Minister. But there isn't even political stability. And none of this is COVID or Russia's war in Ukraine. All of it is internal political choices driven by Brexit. And that's just the political twists and turns, the political choices. Then there's the cold, hard reality. That's not the choice of the government, but they have to put up with it anyway. The hard Brexit made Britain a third country with respect to the EU, our largest import and export market by far. How are we going to encourage growth when our businesses have to cope with trade barriers that didn't used to exist? Countries, over time, reduce trade barriers in peacetime. It's only war that raises them. We are the first country, I think, but certainly in modern times, to have raised trade barriers with markets who are at peace with us. There's a reason nobody else has done this. It's insane. How can our businesses produce more when we've restricted their access to labour and materials? How can they export more when they're faced with costly and time-consuming red tape, transport shortages, import duties on the other side, maybe even quotas? They can't. You encourage growth by encouraging a boost to production and an easier route for export. We've done the opposite. Brexit has done the opposite. And this would be true even if our trading arrangements were stable, because we could have had a Brexit where the trading arrangements were stable, but they're not. And so whomever replaces Truss, they'll talk about their growth plan, just as she did, but it'll be nonsense. They know it'll be nonsense. Their strategy will be to try and persuade people that it'll work. That's their trick now. That's what it's been for the last few years. Try and persuade people that you've got this plan and they'll go, oh yeah, that'll work. No, it won't work. It'll never work, because you cannot trade more by raising trade barriers. And once the Conservative Party get themselves into a position whereby they realise that they actually need to grow the economy rather than just talk about it, there's no way they can come up with a serious plan that works with their hard Brexit mindset. They'll need to lower trade barriers and stabilise the regulatory framework. And this is best done by rejoining the EU. But will certainly require a much closer trading relationship with the EU to achieve anything. And they may not be that far away from realising it. After all, what was the point of staying quiet in order to prevent the party splitting if the party ends up splitting anyway? That decision was madness. Tories always used to say Europe was the one issue that divided them. So they chose to make the one issue that divided them the one issue that would define all of their policy making for the foreseeable future. Are they really surprised it came to this? It just shows the lack of long-term strategic thinking within the Parliamentary Conservative Party at all levels. Right now, they have this Brexit hot potato, and they are proclaiming how great hot potatoes are, whilst frantically tossing it from one MP to the other in the hope that someone will eventually know what to do with it. What you do with it is you toss it in the duck pond and go and get a kebab. There is no compensating for the damage of Brexit with benefits anywhere. There never was, there never will be. Brexit is, and always was, an attack on the country, a deliberate attack on the country by people who just wanted to weaken it politically or strip it of its assets and sleep on a big pile of money. This is why the various pro-Brexit groups are now so worried about the prospect of the public realising that Brexit is reducing their standard of living and that reversing it would raise it again. They're also worried that many Tory MPs will start to work out what Brexit actually means as well, because most of them are clueless. Not a clue, but they're starting to work it out. And they will decide that neither the country nor their party can live with it. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.